In a move that has sent shockwaves through the global economy, President Trump's 25% tariff on imported cars, announced in April 2025, has pushed Toyota, Honda, and Nissan to make a game-changing decision that could cripple the US auto industry. Instead of boosting American manufacturing, as intended, the tariffs have caused major automakers to shift production out of the US and into Mexico. This decision has rattled the very foundation of an industry that was once a symbol of American ingenuity and resilience. What was meant to be a protective measure for US workers now risks decimating an entire sector of the economy, leaving thousands of jobs and American car buyers in the dust. As the tariffs increase the costs of manufacturing, these global automotive giants have opted for a move that threatens to unravel decades of US auto industry growth. Could this be the beginning of the end for the US auto industry? How will consumers, workers, and the economy at large react to this seismic shift? Before we dive into the details, make sure you're subscribed to the African Web for more insights on the latest global developments and their impact. When the tariff announcement was made, it didn't take long for Toyota, Honda, and Nissan to react. They were already struggling to maintain profitability under the increasing costs of production in the US market. With Trump's new tariff pushing foreign imports to astronomical prices, these Japanese giants had little choice but to make a strategic retreat. They moved production lines out of the US, redirecting their manufacturing efforts to Mexico, where labor costs are lower and tariffs would be less burdensome. This decision wasn't taken lightly. Toyota and Honda had invested billions in US factories, providing thousands of jobs to American workers. But the financial burden of the tariffs, combined with the risk of losing out in the highly competitive car market, made the move to Mexico inevitable. The losses for these companies were staggering. Not only did they face mounting production costs, but they also had to contend with reduced market share in the US. The impact on their bottom lines could last for years, with profits shrinking and growth prospects limited. The American workers who once relied on these factories for their livelihoods now face an uncertain future. The very jobs Trump's tariffs were supposed to protect have been threatened by the policies themselves. The immediate result of Trump's tariffs is painfully evident on car dealership lots across the US. Car prices are skyrocketing, with imported vehicles becoming prohibitively expensive for the average American consumer. The tariffs have caused a ripple effect, inflating the cost of both foreign and domestic vehicles as automakers pass on their increased costs to consumers. A basic sedan now costs thousands more than it did just a year ago, leaving many buyers unable to afford new cars or choosing to delay their purchases altogether. But the pain doesn't stop there. Factory closures and the potential loss of thousands of jobs loom large on the horizon. The American auto industry, once the engine of middle-class growth, now faces an uncertain future. US automakers may not be able to keep up with the pressure of competing with cheaper, high-quality foreign alternatives that aren't subject to the same tariffs. Job losses in manufacturing, retail, and ancillary industries are likely to follow, further exacerbating the economic slowdown. Could these tariffs inadvertently lead to the very job losses Trump sought to avoid? The answer is a resounding yes. Unemployment could surge, and US manufacturers could struggle to remain competitive. It's not just the big automakers that are feeling the heat. The smaller, often overlooked suppliers that depend on these larger companies for their livelihood are facing their own existential crisis. The ripple effect of the tariff-induced production shift is now threatening to bring down smaller suppliers who provide critical parts and materials to auto manufacturers. From metalworking factories to electronics manufacturers, these suppliers are struggling to stay afloat as demand dries up and the cost of raw materials rises. The collapse of these small businesses could trigger a domino effect, one that not only threatens the auto industry but the entire supply chain that supports it. Communities across the US that once relied on auto manufacturing for their economic stability could soon see the jobs and local economies they depend on wiped out. Could we be witnessing the end of an era for American industry? Is the US government willing to risk the lives of small business owners to protect foreign corporations? On the other hand, Japanese automakers, including Toyota, Honda, and Nissan, have strategically leveraged this entire situation to their benefit. By shifting production to Mexico and other favorable regions, they've been able to circumvent Trump's tariffs, effectively outsmarting the system. As a result, they continue to produce high-quality cars while avoiding the exorbitant costs of manufacturing in the US. This savvy approach has allowed them to maintain competitive pricing in the US market. while American manufacturers struggle under the weight of rising production costs. In essence, Japan's auto industry has thrived by exploiting the very tariff system designed to protect US interests. Will this mark the beginning of Japan's dominance in the global car market, with American companies left scrambling to catch up? Or will the US government pivot and rethink these tariffs before they cause irreversible damage? President Trump's tariff strategy, though bold, has failed to achieve its intended goals. While the idea was to boost US manufacturing and bring jobs back to the country, it has instead led to widespread economic pain. By imposing a 25% tariff on imported cars, the administration overlooked the fact that many US automakers rely on foreign parts and materials for production. This has driven up costs across the board, making it harder for US companies to compete, not just with foreign manufacturers, but with each other. Moreover, smaller US suppliers that once thrived in the auto ecosystem are now being squeezed, with many facing potential bankruptcy as a result. The higher costs and disrupted supply chains have only deepened the strain on American manufacturers, exacerbating the problem. The broader economic ramifications are now clear. Consumers are paying more for cars, and the auto industry is facing a significant downturn. Small businesses that depend on the industry are closing their doors, and jobs are being lost at an alarming rate. The entire economic landscape of the US is now being reshaped by a policy that, in retrospect, may have been poorly thought out. Could this tariff strategy be the final straw that breaks the camel's back for US industry? Will history judge this decision as one of the most damaging economic policies of the century? In conclusion, the impact of Trump's tariffs is being felt across the US auto industry and beyond. The policies that were meant to strengthen American manufacturing have instead triggered a chain of events that threatens to undermine the very foundation of the US economy. With automakers pulling out of the US and production lines moving to more cost-effective countries, the damage has already been done. The US auto industry, once a powerhouse of innovation and employment, now faces a critical juncture. The rise in car prices and job losses are only the beginning of a broader economic shift that could have lasting effects on American workers. As production shifts to Mexico and other regions, the US may find itself unable to compete in the global car market, and the jobs that once supported millions of American families could disappear for good. The ripple effect of these tariffs could be disastrous, not just for the auto industry, but for the many US industries that rely on it. It's time to reconsider the long-term effects of such policies and evaluate whether the strategy is truly in the best interest of the American people. Will the US government make the necessary adjustments before it's too late? Only time will tell. Do you think these tariffs will result in more harm than good? Or are they necessary for revitalizing US manufacturing? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to the African Web for more in-depth analyses of global economic trends and their impact on Africa and beyond.